How's it going? Are we good? Good. So, hi everyone. I'm Emily Downing.
And I'm Alex Stoffel.
And we are from Seattle University. Today we are presenting on diversity and inclusion, specifically in regards to the community of people with disabilities and how Seattle University has taken on the challenge of being, or striving to be, as inclusive as possible.
Alright, so the first definition that we're going to go over is disability. According to the World Health Organization, disability is defined as an umbrella term covering impairments, activity limitations, and participation restrictions. Now, an impairment is a problem in body function or structure. An activity limitation is difficulty encountered by an individual in executing a task or action. And participation restriction is problem experienced by an individual in involvement in life situations. Disability is a very complex phenomenon, and given the definition, includes a variety of people. And within the disability definition are three different types of disabilities one might encounter. The first is visible. Visible disabilities are what one might imagine when hearing the word disability. They are noticeable or exterior differences, such as being in a wheelchair. Now, there is a slight privilege with having a visible disability, such as your needs are easily identifiable. A wheelchair needs a ramp to access a building, or in this case, a stage. The disadvantage of having a visible disability is that you can never escape the disability label, and assumptions and stereotypes will always be attributed to you. On the opposite side, we have invisible disabilities, which are things that are not noticeable. Most commonly, this term is associated with people who have learning disabilities, but also includes chronic pain, illness, or anxiety. The privilege is that people with invisible disabilities can escape the disability label until they choose to disclose that information, while the disadvantage is that their needs are not easily identifiable unless those are arranged by that person. And the third type of disability is temporary, which means that the conditions that the person experiences will not be permanent. That can include a broken arm, broken leg, and the privilege is that they are not permanent. However, the disadvantage is that it can be incredibly jarring to move through an inaccessible society.
Alright, so Alex and I wanted to introduce the idea of muted group theory. Muted group theory was originally adopted by communication scholars to address the experiences of women. So generally, it focuses on how language serves its creators. And if the creators never experienced any of the disabilities that Alex has just discussed, then they don't necessarily make a language that caters to the needs that those people may need.
So has anyone here heard of the term ableism? Okay, I see some hands, good. So ableism is a form of discrimination or prejudice against people with disabilities. And as Emily just mentioned with muted group theory, language serves its creators. And there are some people that get excluded by the existence of certain terms. So ableist language refers to terms and phrases that exclude people with disabilities. And these are words such as stand, walk, step, see, and they're everyday parts of speech, or parts of everyday speech. And they exclude people based on their ability level. And these terms are very common, especially in advocacy organizations, where a lot of the times the slogans read, stand up for whatever cause it is. And reading that slogan automatically privileges the people who can perform that ability and excludes ones who cannot. So to make Dance Marathon more inclusive, we tried to eliminate our ableist rhetoric by saying that we dance for 16 hours, instead of we stand for 16 hours. That way we can be inclusive even in our description of the event and make sure that all ability levels are welcome. Ableist language is extremely difficult to get rid of, and it's okay to mess up. I mess up daily. The point is to be conscious of your language and who it affects.
So, at this point, you might be asking yourself, why is this relevant to you personally? Ableist language is a really challenging topic, but it's extremely important to address. Right now, I am temporarily able-bodied, but tomorrow, I could be in an accident that leaves me visibly disabled, temporarily disabled, or invisibly disabled. The first part is understanding everything that goes into it, and the second is implementing it into our lives. I personally acknowledge that I still use ableist language on a day-to-day basis unconsciously, only because of the way it's so ingrained into our language. The best we can do is educate ourselves so that eventually it just becomes second nature to us. Now, let's move on to why it's relevant to Dance Marathon. Many of the miracle children that we're serving fall under one of the disability categories that Alex has just discussed. So by intentionally choosing terms that we know include our miracle children, we're able to bring more of them to our event. Also, many of the people in our communities and campuses fall under one of those disability definitions. So again, by intentionally choosing terms, we're able to expand the amount of people that we have working towards uncompensated care.
So this year, Seattle U experimented with some different tactics to make our dance marathon inclusive. And some things that we tried ended up working really well, while others we learned from. And the first thing that we did was have an accessibility email. So as participants signed up, we sent an email saying that we are dedicated to providing an inclusive and accessible experience for all, and that if anyone had any needs, that they just communicate those to us. And it ended up working really well that people felt they had a space to communicate their needs, while it was also beneficial for our steering team to know the preferences of our dancers. The second thing that we had was a wellness room. So at the events that we could accommodate anyone who needed it. And that includes anyone who needed to sit down for a while or separate themselves physically from the event for disability reasons. And some people really enjoyed that we had the space available, while others said that it was in fact oppressive. They said that because we had a designated space separated from the event, that it was marginalizing. So in our attempt to be inclusive, we ended up marginalizing another group. It's a very tricky process, and it's definitely a challenge, but we acknowledge that it's one worth having. And we have a few ideas to improve our approach to the wellness room this year.
So our second major tactic was marketing. On our website, we specifically chose words such as challenge and participate, rather than asking people to stand in case one of those people wasn't able to do so. We also made an effort in being completely inclusive on all of our social media posts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, to try and create this image of complete inclusivity to our campus and surrounding communities. We created this new marketing campaign that uses the slogan, "Imagine, Inspire, Impact." Our goal with this was that people would associate these terms with Seattle University's Dance Marathon. We aim to imagine a community without pediatric illness, inspire a community of hope, and impact Seattle Children's Hospital. We encourage you to think about different inclusivity goals that you can make and bring them back to your dance marathons and try and create as an inclusive environment as possible. We recognize that this is a really big challenge, but Seattle U has taken it on, and we really hope that you will consider doing the same. Thank you.